so I'm happy to ask questions.
All right.
30 minutes is more than we get in the Capitol building in Madison.
So anyway, let's have a good conversation. Happy to answer questions.
So I think the first thing we want to ask is how do you plan on voting on extending unemployment insurance?
I want to make sure that in terms of unemployment, first of all, if we extend it, which if Congress views that as a top priority of spending, we need to be able to pay for it because we're running, last year $1.3 trillion year deficit, and we're really bankrupt in this country. So the first thing would be look for something to pay for the extension. Secondly, I think it's extremely important that we start reforming unemployment insurance. For example, in the state of Wisconsin, you can actually get a part-time job and still collect part of your benefits. So people have incentives to take those entry-level positions without losing their entire benefits. So there's a number of things you can do to try and reform the unemployment insurance program so that we actually don't create disincentives or unintended consequences. So
what are the unintended consequences of extending unemployment insurance?
I'll give you an example. I had I understand in my own business, but I had a paint contractor. I won't name names or even the city, but when I was back in Wisconsin, and this fellow came up to me and said, listen, I had two big jobs. That, it's been kind of tough, obviously, in the home and construction industry. So I had two large jobs, and so I went to hire my guys back, and they were very honest with me. He said, well, we're just making too much of unemployment. Until our benefits run out, we're not going to come back and work for you. To add insult to injury, this paint contractor lost jobs because his workers that he couldn't hire back, they did the projects for cash. There's just some real-world unintended consequences there. So, one thing I have to say, folks, we share the same goal. I want to make sure everybody can realize their full human potential, that people have work, that they can build a good life for themselves and their family. And we may have differences in terms of what our solutions are, okay? But you're pointing out an instance here. I have a great deal of sympathy for that individual. We need to streamline that system. So again, that's part of the we need. But just throwing money at problems is not a real
First of all,
okay, sir.
Some of us are here because we tried to meet with you before, and we went to have a conversation with you when you were arrested in Milwaukee.
Speak loud, okay.
And after the arrest, you promised that you would come and meet with us. And we planned, many people left from their towns to come and meet with you, and you rescheduled to have a meeting with fundraisers in Oshkosh. And so we have a history, some of us in this room, of trying to meet with you. And I just say, by show of hands, how many people in here are unemployed? Okay. Now, the senator just said that if the government right now extends unemployment insurance for you and people like you, that it's a handout, that you're going to be lazy and you're not going to continue looking for a job. Of you that raised your hand, is that true? No. And here's the issue. The senator knows very well that the problem is not that the government is involved. The problem is that corporations have record profits right now. They have more money than ever before in human history. Right now, corporations have the money to put people back to work. What they aren't doing is using that money to help people like you. So I think the question we need to ask is, one, where are the jobs in Wisconsin that you promised when you ran for office? And question two, why won't you make the rich pay their fair share in order to fund good jobs? Because we know that they've got the money. The question is, what are they contributing to help us get back to work?
First, it was unfortunate that you got arrested. Okay, certainly my state director was willing to meet with you folks, and I think this is the instance. We have a very small office here, so we're trying to do manageable chunks of people who actually fit inside the office. I offered to meet with one of the leaders, both in Milwaukee and in Oshkosh, but you have to understand, I've got a pretty full schedule, and I've met with hundreds of thousands of Wisconsinites, but they do make appointments.
Now we want to know about the job issue and why you are not supporting that the rich pay their fair share in taxes in order to create the good jobs, because you know that they've got plenty of money to hire.
Let's just kind of, again, there's a very large ideological divide in this country, so let me just try and explain my position.
I think it's about fairness, not about ideology.
Yeah.
I think that's
Very good point.
I can eat, and then somebody else might not be able to eat. That's ideology we talk about.
I understand.
That's a good point.
Let me answer. The only promise, by the way, I made during the campaign, really the only promise, was I would never vote for my reelection. We do want to see.
How many
everybody
taxes did
have the opportunity.
How many taxes did GE pay, for example, last year in
I understand,
2010?
those are anomalies.
No,
Those are individual things where they've got loss carry forwards. They've got, by the way, energy tax credits on wind turbines. There's all kinds of special. I don't support those things. I haven't even had a chance to vote on those yet. I don't like special deals. I don't like crony capitalism.
So you support closing all the tax loopholes for these multinational corporations?
The true things that are tax loopholes, that are special deals, things like wind turbine tax credits that really don't recognize the benefit, the discipline-free marketplace. I think businesses should be able to make it on their own without looking for government for support. I'm contributing an awful lot of statements that I've never made. But let me just give you a little bit about my background. Both my parents grew up on farms. I worked my entire life. As a young man,
My father grew up on a farm too.
good. I know. So we share that.
But who'd you
Okay,
marry?
I mowed lawns.
Who'd you marry?
I worked
Did I marry?
I worked the farms in the summer.
I married
my
a
first,
farmer's
my
daughter.
first
Well,
job.
that's the difference. You married a millionaire.
My first job was at Walgreens at the age of 15 as a dishwasher, and then a fry cook. I worked my way 100% full time in college, taking night courses primarily. I've worked hard all my life. I understand.
How much is
why
your
you
wife's
have to have
family
a life
worth?
of work, okay? It's not that I've been given anything. Yes, I've enjoyed what America offers in terms of freedom and opportunity, and I've taken advantage of that, and I've been successful. But I also understand too, if you decide to tax all the wealth away from the top 1%,
Not away.
you couldn't pay for the full year's deficit, and then what incentive? I mean, think of this. Think of what incentive that's going to be for people that actually create jobs, that actually do invest their money in business. Now I realize that is an ideological divide. Too many people want to punish success. I grew up in America that valued hard work and celebrated success. Sir,
So, with regards to what you're speaking to earlier on changing unemployment benefits so that people can take entry-level positions, why do you believe that entry-level positions as they exist currently are positions in which people need to rely on state aid even though they have a job, number one? And two, what do you, as our representative in this system, in this city, what do you plan to do to make sure that we, the people, can get entry-level jobs that still understand that when you work, you should have enough money to live, right?
the administration has their SBA do a study, like how much does it cost to comply with government regulations? The study came back $1.75 trillion. Now let me put that in perspective. This is the burden we're placing on job creators.
Those regulations are in place to keep us
The
safe.
CEOs are putting all the money in their pockets. They're not getting bankrupted by the government. They're not bankrupted at all. They're taking the profit off the top and shoving it in their own pockets instead of making jobs with it. And then we're still making it easier and easier and easier for them to do things like mine without regulation. So that we're saying, oh, well, we need these businesses to come in because otherwise no one will have any jobs. But then when we give them all these loopholes and all this money back for like being such wonderful rich people, right? Then they don't give us any of the jobs that we say they create when we give them these loopholes and things.
Amen.
Right? They're putting it all in their pockets. So as long as they continue to make profits at higher margins versus what the people that work for them make in history. So it's not like the government's bankrupting these people so they can't create jobs. The government's bending over backwards and laying down and getting screwed by these corporations into giving up all regulation and then still just pocketing the money.
First of all, certainly I would never propose giving up all regulations. But $1.75 trillion, to put it in perspective, is 12% of our economy. It's a larger number than all the 8 economies. And that is what we're burdening our job creators with. I don't think that makes it very attractive place for job creation. We also do have the highest corporate tax rate in the world.
Senator Johnson,
if
people pay it,
we compete, and so many do.
If consumer spending is 7% of the economy, how are we supposed to make it if 2% of the people got all the money?
2% of people don't have all the money, but again,
It's consumer spending 70% of the economy.
1% of the population does have 17% of the income. And again,
49% of wealth. How much percent of the wealth?
I am concerned about the disparity between the top and the bottom. I am. But again, the solution isn't to tear the top down. The solution is to get our economy going again.
How do we have money in our pocket to spend?
And as somebody who's run a business. and
I
again,
ran one too.
I haven't made
It wasn't big as yours, but I ran a business.
My question for you is this: when he asks about a living wage, making sure people have to be able to live with their job, why do you talk about the corporate CEOs and not the regular people?
I don't talk about
He talks about living wage, and
I know.
you talk
I'm
about
happy to address things like minimum wage because the true effect of minimum wage is, let's take a small business. Let's talk about small business that wants to hire more people. But if you put a minimum wage too high, you actually prohibit him from being able to create a job because he can't afford it.
In that case,
Puts him out of business. So what we're doing is we are
limiting
limiting the number of entry-level positions so that people can actually get into the workforce, prove their worth to an employer. Bottom line, when you're a good worker, you don't stay at minimum wage for long. Trust me on that.
Oh no! Wow! Then who's filling all these minimum wage jobs?
It's not universal, but trust me, as an employer, I certainly didn't want to lose good employees. And so you actually have a competitive marketplace, and so if your employer's not paying you good wages and you're a good worker, you go and look for other places.
Good wages.
It's hard to do when we have such high levels of unemployment. But again, I would get back to we don't have a very attractive place for business investment.
Senator, have you ever lived off of minimum wage before? Do you have any idea what it's like for a family to live off
My
of
first
How old
job.
were you? You were 15? Do you have children?
My first job was for $1.45 an hour, and again, I worked full time. Actually, and I think the most number of hours I worked while I was going to college was 96 in a week, plus taking full work.
how much did college cost when you went?
It was a lot cheaper. It was, and again,
And how much was your rent?
I wasn't able to live in my parents' house. Okay,
So you didn't actually have to support yourself off of minimum wage. That's what you're saying.
no, but I supported myself after I got my education.
How many people in this room were able to marry somebody whose father made them the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar corporation after their minimum wage job?
Well, that's nobody.
That's not exactly the way the story went down.
Eric, can I just ask one question? Because I know you got, look,
I do have to go.
yeah, I know. People came from all across Wisconsin. People from Milwaukee, from Madison, from Fox Valley, places that you know very well. And we came here because right now we have a crisis and the Congress is making serious decisions about unemployment insurance. They're making serious decisions about whether we're going to have a future with good jobs or we're going to continue down this path of cutting endlessly where businesses don't have confidence. So we want to ask you, right here while you've got the face of many unemployed and underemployed folks, are you going to support an agenda for good family-sustaining jobs that are funded by making the very wealthy, the top 1% pay their fair share of taxes, or are you going to continue on the path of cutting away the future of the people in this room?
I absolutely want to support everybody in this country to be able to build a good life for themselves and their family. We have a difference of opinion in terms of how you go about doing it. I am here because I'm concerned about the bankrupting of this country.
Why don't we raise
That's
taxes
what I'm
so we
trying
can solve the deficit?
Because
We can close
I want anybody who wants to raise taxes to ask themselves two questions. How many jobs will that tax increase create? How many jobs will that help? How will that tax increase help grow our economy? Because what we need to do is number one.
And also, a simple yes or no. If unemployment insurance comes up next week, and it's a simple yes or no, which way will you vote? Yes or no?
We have to reform the unemployment.
So I'm saying
we have to pay for it. We have to find cost offsets, and we should reform the system.
If there's gridlock, will you just say yes, we will do it for the people that are hurting right now? Yes or no?
We need to pay for it so we don't further bankrupt this nation.
Did you sign a pledge with Grover Norquist not to raise taxes?
I don't want to increase taxes because I signed the pledge.
Did you sign a pledge?
I signed the pledge because I don't want to increase taxes.
Yeah, but you didn't sign a pledge with us. How come that was more important?
Thank you. I'll come back around. You guys have a question. Okay. You guys can have safe travels.
Thanks for your time. Have you signed the recall petition?
The 99